Hello everyone, I am Abhishek Chaha. Today at Tathastu ICS, we are going to discuss the questions that came in the international relations topic in 2024 GS mains. So the first question is, the West is fostering India as an alternative to reduce dependency on China's supply chain and as a strategic ally to counter China's political and economic dominance. Explain this statement with examples. Now, in these questions, the first important thing is that we must read them 2 or 3 times so that we could get to the gist of this question. Here you see there are 2 subparts of this particular question. The base says the West is fostering India. Fostering means helping India. How they are helping India? Why they are helping India? As an alternative, number 1, as an alternative to reduce dependency on China's supply chain. The second part is as a strategic ally to counter China's political and economic dominance. So these are the 2 subparts of this question. Now, first thing that you will do whenever you see any question is you start decoding the question into the subparts. So here we have seen that there are 2 subparts. Second thing is then you have to start pinpointing what should be the base knowledge, and then you must know how to structure them and present them. Now this is a small thematic diagram which I have drawn to explain you how we should get to the core of the question. Here it says West foster India. That is the base of the question, that West is helping India. West is helping India for something. What is that something? That West is fostering India for, number 1, as an alternative to supply chain, and number 2, as an alternative to as a strategic ally to counter what? To counter China's political and economic dominance. So our question in our answer we would be writing on these 2 points, remembering that West is helping India for developing these 2 things with respect to the China's political and economic dominance. Have you got my point? ठीक है, इतना समझ में आया? Now let's start with the answer. In introduction, you can write or you can talk about the geopolitical tussle that is going on because of the multipolarity. After the Second World War, there were 2 poles, or we can say there was bipolarity in the world, that is USA and USSR. But with the disintegration of USSR, then experts thought that now the bipolarity have ended and there would be the dominance of USA. But unfortunately, this could not happen. After 2000, we could see that rather than having only one dominance, we started having different dominance. And these multipolarities were seen in the countries like USA, then Russia, then China, European Union, African Union, India. So these are different poles, different polarities which are having their own hegemonic tendencies, which are having their own sphere of influence, which are having their own size of influence. Are you able to understand this? So there is a geopolitical tussle that is going on in the world because of the bipolarity. Now, when there are different nations who want to dominate the world affairs, then no country wants that one nation should have too much power. But then what happened that during the time after the globalization started taking place in the 1990s, it was seen that China became a very important destination for the West, for the Western nations to establish their manufacturing plants in China because of the low wages, because of the favorable policies. Because of that, they were establishing their manufacturing plant in China. But when COVID came, they were able to see that China could have misused these supply chain to disrupt the world trade and pressurize these Western countries while the trade imbalance was going on, or the trade tussle was going on between the West and the China. Therefore, the West, they came out with a policy that is known as China +1 policy. Now, what is this China +1 policy? After the lessons of the COVID, though in the COVID times China could not do any such thing, but they understood that they must have their manufacturing plants in the other countries also, so that if the manufacturing stops in one country, they can continue the trade from the other nations. Therefore, they started finding alternative that where they can start their manufacturing plant in the countries other than China, and henceforth India emerged as one of this +1 nation. India emerged as one of an alternative for the Western nations. I hope this is clear that there is a geopolitical tussle that is going on. And in that West has came with a China +1 policy, so that the risk of over reliance on China reduces. Clear? Now let's come to the body part. So what we are going to write first are the first that we are going to write is how West is fostering India as an alternative to supply chain. How they are helping India to develop as an alternative supply chain. Now, because of certain favorable factors that have happened in India, West is looking as an alternative for China towards India. Now, what are those favorable factors? Let us first discuss them. These are the favorable factors. What are these favorable factors? Number one, in 2014 we came with the Make in India program, where the then government started enforcing the industrial sector in India. Second, the Indian government has been making reforms so that there is ease of doing business. Third is that there are tax reforms, there are labor reforms in India that are going on. Next is that there is huge demographic dividend. There is huge youth population in India who can work in these factories, plants. Next, these people are also English speaking. In China, they are mainly Mandarin speaking, and very less are the English speaking people. But in India, we are having a huge population which speaks English. Next, and thanks to our education system, that we are English speaking population. Next is production linked incentive. It is a government initiative where they help the production. Next is skill development, and so on and so forth. There are many favorable factors in India. I hope this is clear. So this is the background that why why West is looking towards India as an alternative to China. Because of these factors, they find that India could be a better destination. India could be a better alternative. So these are the initiatives that have been taken by the West. Number one is Mineral Security Partnership. Now, this Mineral Security Partnership, it is a US-led initiative. It is having somewhere about 14 nations where they are talking about the critical minerals, and these critical minerals will be for technology, will be for renewable energy and the other things. Clear? This is one. Second is Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. This is between India, Japan and Australia, and it is basically for having an sustainable and inclusive growth in the Indo-Pacific region. Sustainable and balanced growth in the Indo-Pacific region. India, Japan, Australia. With these three countries, USA also came and they made Quad. Clear this much? Next is UN Global Supply Chain. Now this is by United Nations Trade and Development. Next is Semiconductor Supply Chain. So India and USA have signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, on basically semiconductor supply chain resilience. Similarly, India and Japan have also signed MOC, that is Memorandum on Cooperation with respect to semiconductor supply chain. I hope this is clear. Next is India-Pacific Economic Framework. Again, this is USA led. It is having 4 pillars. One of such pillar is supply chain resilience. supply chain resilience. ठीक है, so these are some of the important points through which West is trying to make India as an alternative. ठीक है, there are some more, let us see. Next is rip and replace initiative of USA. Rip and replace initiative of USA. With this particular initiative, USA is trying to reduce its reliance on the Chinese telecommunication equipments and the other things with respect to telecommunication, because they have found that Chinese have been using bugs and the other ways to take the to threaten the privacy and the other things. Clear hai? Rip and replace. Next is they are establishing manufacturing plants in India. Establishing manufacture plants in India, like Apple is coming, Microsoft is coming, Tesla also wants to come and establish a manufacturing plant in India. The best example of this supply chain, let me give you that majority of you would be having an iPhone or any device related to Apple. If you will read on the box, so it would be written that it is designed in USA and manufactured in China, and then it is being exported to India. So designed in USA, manufactured in China. So this is the supply chain, that actually it is designed in USA but has been manufactured in China, and then it has been exported to the other countries. Now West wants that this manufacturing should happen in India, and it is good for India also because it will generate lot of job opportunities for our people. It will create it will give India a lot of taxes benefits. We will generate a lot of taxes through which we could do economic development of the country and as well as the social development of the country. Clear this part? Now let's come to the second part. How West is fostering India as a strategic ally. How West is fostering India as a strategic ally. So in this, as we have discussed, is a Quad. We have already discussed the Quad. There is one more, I2U2, India, Israel, USA, UAE. So these are the two organizations. Quad is having 4 members, India, Japan, Australia, USA. So these are the two organizations which are focusing on the maritime security and economic development. Now strategic ally means strategic means more than friendship. More than friendship, we are relying on the security as well. We are relying on their economic aspect also, that is strategic. Something above the economy, that is strategic. Thoda friendly se aata, we can say that most trusted friend kind of thing. So by Quad and I2U2, we are trying to create that strategic ally. The next is trilateral alliance. It is between India, South Korea and the USA, and over here we are focusing on the defense technology, then the trade and the other technologies. Next is we are increasing bilateral ties. We are increasing bilateral ties between India and the Western nation. For an example, India with USA, India with Britain, India with France, India with Italy. We are increasing our relations. Next is India and USA using each other to balance China. Now, this is very important. China is an aggressor state. In every sphere, wherever China goes, it tries to impose or it tries to create such type of dominance that that the image of China comes out to be as an aggressor, whether it's economic, it's security, or in the other ways. In South China Sea is a good example that how China is acting as an aggressor. Now the string of pearls is also a good example. Therefore, to counter China, India and USA came forth and they signed some of the defense agreement which could be helpful for both India as well as USA to reduce the dominance of the China, to tackle the China in the India-Pacific region. And these are LEMO, LEMOA, COMCASA and BECA. The details have been done in the Indo-US classes. Clear hai this much? Now let us see further. Next is we are doing the co-production of arms and missiles. Example we can give that India and USA, they are manufacturing fighter jet engine. India and Russia have earlier developed BrahMos missile. So you can give this example, fighter jet. Next is India USA initiative on critical and emerging technology. Now this is very important. ICET, ठीक है, ICET on critical and emerging technology. This is with respect to the space technology, AI, artificial intelligence, semiconductor, telecommunication, STEM, sense technology, ठीक है, critical minerals, clean energy, ठीक है, again very important for developing a strategic ally. Next is partnership for global infrastructure and investment. Now there is an organization called G7 of the developed nations. Now this G7 came with this PGII, that is the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Now this G7 plus India, they have came with a with one particular step, that is India, Middle East and Europe corridor. India, Middle East and Europe corridor, and for this you can even draw the map. ठीक है, you can draw the map. I can't add the paper. Just a second. I can't add a page over here. ठीक है, I can't add a page over here, but you can draw the India, and then Middle East, and then Europe, and then you can show that from India we will go to the Middle East using the Persian Gulf as well as the Suez Canal, either of the two ways, but Persian Gulf would be a better. Then we will go to the Mediterranean, and from Mediterranean we will go to Europe. Okay, so that is going to be the India, Middle East and Europe corridor. Clear this much? Next, what will be the conclusion? So in conclusion you can say that it is the time to balance China's aggression and India's aspiration. China, which is having an image of aggression, and India, which is having an image of aspiration, that India wants to rise, India wants to aspire, India wants to be a world leader, a economic leader, whereas China, who is an aggressor. So West need to balance these both. Because India always follows a multilateral diplomacy. We do not go with one nation. Even during the time of Cold War, India showed that India will not go with either of the poles. India maintained the NAM philosophy throughout the Cold War. Therefore, West must respect India, and they must understand that India is not going to be a nation which will blindly go with the West. Therefore, they must understand India, and they must engage with India in certain way that both West as well as India can have benefit from each other. ठीक है, I hope this is clear. So this is one question